We're going. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. Jimothy Tuffy, we are back at it again because you guessed it. We just had a great weekend of college football where it's got the same old Penn State, a unanimous number one, and a wave of disappointment for some of these teams, but also some upsets. So,
Yeah,
Tubby, man, welcome back to the show. We're going to get right into it, man. It was a good weekend of football.
it was. It turned out better than I thought after looking at the slate of games. It
Uh-huh.
turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I gotta say we were kind of right on some of these
Mm-hmm.
options here. Like the Texas
We
A&M,
were.
I did say that thought they would win if they played Marcel Reed, but they did, and they
Did still.
still got blown out in that game. But it's
Yeah.
South Carolina at night. I mean, dude, it was a recipe for Texas A&M. So I don't
Yeah.
didn't mean for us to jump into that one, but
No,
that was the
well,
one that
might as
first came
well.
to my mind.
Yeah. No, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, did they start Reed or did they start Wegman? And so I went and looked after the game and I was like, well, they started Reed.
Yeah, it just felt like they did not have a way to slow down the physicality that South
Yeah.
Carolina brought, and it showed up. I mean, they just warmed down, especially as the game went on.
Yeah. Lenore Sellers had himself a game.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that is a snapshot of
Mm-hmm.
what college football, specifically the SEC, looks like this year. It doesn't matter how good you are in the standings;
Yeah.
that at any point in time, a team that's 3-5 could beat you. Like that.
Yeah.
That's just flat out what's happening. So, this is the second loss? Does
Mm-hmm.
this mean that A&M's pretty much on the outside in because they still technically have a path to the
Yeah.
SEC championship? But is this that they have to win the SEC championship in order to qualify for the playoff? You think?
I think so. Just because, I mean, really, you look at all the other games. I mean, outside the Missouri game, when they blew out Missouri, well, now look at Missouri. Missouri's not that good. So I think that they really do need to probably win out. Yeah, two losses, you may be able to sneak in at that last, you have the 11 seed. But I think for them, they just haven't played great football. I mean, they should have lost to LSU. Luckily,
Yeah.
Marcel Reed came in and saved them. But
Hmm.
it is I don't think they're that great of a team. I think they're kind of overrated, which I think there's a lot, honestly, in the SEC. Maybe it could just be the SEC is that tough, but I think there's a lot of SEC teams that just haven't quite lived up to the potential I think that a lot of people expected them to.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, even Georgia this year, we thought like, well,
Yeah.
after a couple weeks, we're like, this is just Georgia's to win. And even this week, they struggled against Florida up until the fourth quarter. And
Mm-hmm.
3 picks later, Carson Beck, if he has another year of eligibility, I'm saying, dude, you need to go back.
Yeah, there's no way he needs to enter the draft.
He is not
His
ready.
his pocket presence is absolutely awful. Watching that game yesterday, the I think it was probably just the third interception where the dude is like literally in his face, right in his line of sight, and he doesn't see him at all, and tries to throw it as soon as he gets hit. And I'm like, he doesn't try to like sidestep or try to move up in the pocket or anything. He just stands there and tries to force it. He has 11 interceptions in the last 5 games, and I mean, they should have lost to Texas probably because he turned the ball over 3 times again. Yeah, I mean, look at the Alabama game. He turned the ball over 4 times, turned the ball over 3 times. They, are lucky that they only have one loss at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. And they still have a couple. I mean, they still obviously get OU. That looks like a
Mm-hmm.
win. They'll still have Georgia Tech at the end. That's a rivalry game, so you never know. Tennessee, Ole Miss. No, they don't. They already played. Do they
No,
not play OU? I thought they played OU for some
no, they
reason.
don't
Sorry,
play
I was
OU
just
this year.
assuming OU was playing everybody. That was incredible. So,
Yeah,
Ole Miss, Tennessee, back-to-back weeks. No buys between those games. That's what's crazy. And then they get UMass and Georgia Tech. So they have their work cut out for them to
yeah,
finish the SEC strong to represent in the championship game. And Carson Beck has to get it together. They're on the road this next week against Ole Miss, and then they get Tennessee, who is ideally going to limit possession time. Like you're
yep,
not going to have as many shots. So when you turn the ball over, you can't do that against the best teams. And honestly, I don't know that it would have changed if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt. I still haven't heard.
yeah,
With college injuries, it's so hard to get accurate information, even
yeah.
up to the minute stuff. But I don't know that it would have changed. But they felt like they were a better team.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how they were even in this game when you look at the box score. Anybody who didn't watch this game, you're like, how were they
yeah,
in the game?
yeah. Like especially when you saw the third string quarterback come in. There's one
Hmm.
play where he's rolling out to the right, and he has pressure coming behind him. He doesn't get touched, and he goes to throw the ball away, and it looked like a second grader tried to throw the football. I was like,
Yeah,
"Yep, there's no way they win this game.
yeah,
That guy's playing
can't do
quarterback.
it.
No shot. And what it sounds like from Lagway, that it is a pretty significant hamstring
Yeah,
injury.
get the MRI. So not the only hamstring injury this week. We'll get more to that
Oh,
on tomorrow's episode. So we'll stick
yeah.
to that one. What if I told you this was a year that you'd have a brand new team in the Big Ten that would dominate and beat both Ohio State and Michigan? I mean, Oregon is a unanimous number one. They have
Oh, yeah.
lots of statement wins on their radar, and they have been dominating each of the last 3 weeks as they head
Hmm.
into Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington. It looks like they should, unless they get ahead of themselves, they
Yeah.
should be able to continue on and be 12-0 headed into the Big Ten championship.
Yeah. I mean, they are clearly the best team in college football. And like, I heard a
Most
couple of
complete team
guys.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. Their defense is playing really good right now. And the offense is humming. There's no stopping that offense. So you better
Mhm.
hope that you have an offense that can, match them point for point. But I heard someone the other day was like, "Oh, Georgia's clearly still the number one team." I'm like, I don't know what college football you're watching.
Mm-mm.
And then I think this week even cemented that even more with the way they played against Florida.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Georgia's good, but they're nowhere on the level right now at what Oregon is playing at. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
they're
who do you want,
clearly
Gabriel or do you want Carson Beck? I don't even
yeah,
think it's a question. Give me
not
Dylan
even
Gabriel.
not even a hesitation.
And who's been able to run the ball against Michigan's defense. Like they've
Yeah.
been able to impose their will. I think Oregon right
Mhm.
now, it is the class of all of college football right now. And everybody else, and we're saying this, watch, Oregon's going to just trip over themselves. But
Yeah.
I still believe in what Oregon's doing. And just Dan Lanning, I mean,
Yeah.
he's recruiting well. He's clearly got a complete team. He's dominating in a brand new conference where, I mean, honestly, like there are teams in the Pac-12 that have transferred over that have not done anywhere near what Oregon has. I mean, they were set up well. So I think Oregon
Yeah,
could go in the
absolutely.
SEC and dominate.
I think they could right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other game we talked about going into the weekend was Penn State, Ohio State. And I think we said 21-17 was the final. It ended up being under, which is not
Yeah.
surprising, 20-13. Penn State did not have a good play at their last drive, and they couldn't stop Ohio State. This was a classic Big Ten game. And for me, this is why I put this. It's the same old Penn State. What are we even talking
Yeah.
about? Does this put? They were asking the question going into the game. Whoever loses is that head coach in the hot seat. Well, let me ask you, Tubby. Is he on the hot seat?
I mean, we know how I feel about James Franklin. I'm not the biggest fan of James Franklin. James
Very true.
Franklin, especially in the big games, just can't get it done. But also, there's the people are going to go, well, he's going to go out there and get that's going to be better. I don't know. But I think at some point, if you keep on staying mediocre and you have the talent to take that team over the top because you recruit well every single year, you have good players. Obviously, it lies now more on the head coach going, okay, you have to be the problem why we aren't able to get over that hump. And I
Yeah.
think that's where it lies. So I think he should, but I know a lot of people will be like, well, there's not many coaches out there that have the resume that James Franklin does. Well, what has James Franklin done?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's a Penn State program that even if he left, it's not going to change anytime soon. They are so entrenched in the way they do football, which is just
Mm-hmm.
not explosive.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why they have such a hard time in these big
Mm-hmm.
games. I mean, even at home,
Yeah.
putting up 13 points, three in the final three quarters is all they got. It's absolutely crazy. And I don't know that Ohio State's defense is that suffocating.
No, I mean, well, look, I mean, I guess that's probably a bad, example because Oregon is just steamrolling. But I mean, I think it really shows though what what going into that Oregon Ohio State game, Ohio State was giving up less than 200 yards a game,
Hmm.
and Dylan Gabriel alone had 212 passing yards. So I don't think
Hmm.
that they're as good as the numbers make them look,
Yeah.
because I don't think that the Big Ten doesn't have a lot of explosive offenses. I mean, really, you
Oh,
got
very true. Yeah.
Oregon, and that's basically about it.
Yeah, because
So
Ohio State is not in that class this year at all.
no,
And then
oh no,
obviously USC, New Big Ten, is not either. They lost again. It's one of those teams that's the opposite.
yeah, they have the most blown fourth quarter leads in college football this year.
I don't under. I yeah. We thought Miller Moss looked better in the system, and he's throwing picks. He's just not getting it
Yeah,
done. So,
nope.
random conversation about a team that has a worse record than OU.
Yeah,
So, all right, OSU, Oklahoma State has also got a worse record than OU. So, you know what? We're not doing as bad as it could be.
yeah, and I mean for the schedule, it was a tough schedule.
For sure. Yeah, tough schedule for sure. All right, let's move on. We got Miami dominates with 36 points in the second half after being tied or being down at halftime 21-17. Um, the Duke really just the turnovers absolutely killed him, but Miami
Mhm.
offensively has looked very, very good. This is like one of
Mhm.
those classic 2015 teams in the Big 12 that just they're going to score a lot. You better keep up.
Yeah.
Um, are you seeing this as a legitimate team? I mean, they're in the top four now.
I still have a hard time right now with any ACC team seeing them as a legitimate team, but you also, I think you kind of got to look at college football right now in a whole. I mean,
Hmm.
like we've been talking, I think there's one clear team that is, met expectations and is playing really good football. And then there's a lot of teams that are good and play good football at certain times, but also have these long stretches of just, lull football where they can't move the football and, Georgia, Miami. We saw it in this game against Duke. We've seen it with Miami in a couple other games like Virginia Tech, where they got lucky with the last second Hail Mary. That maybe should have been counted as a touchdown. Away from not from only having one loss. And so I think that maybe with the rest of it, but I don't think that right now. I don't know if anyone can compete with Oregon.
No, I agree. A couple other games that you can kind of highlight. Obviously, Iowa State gets upset. We already mentioned Texas A&M got upset. Clemson
Mm-hmm.
gets. Clemson made it closer at the end, but they were absolutely getting dominated. I think it was like 26-7. I mean, they weren't even in this game. So they lost. K State lost to Houston. Houston's
Mm-hmm.
now 3-3 in the Big 12. Pitt gets blown out by SMU. You mentioned the ACC. These are just some of the games that are just happened this weekend. It was there one other than Indiana going up and dominating again after being
Yeah.
down 10-0, scoring 47 unanswered. That you look at these teams, you're like, okay. I mean, this is not surprising. This is good stuff. What is it like? Is there any team that's really taken a step forward after this week?
Honestly, I don't think there is. I mean, yeah, I think there's, like you said, I think there's one really good football team in college football, and there's a handful of good football teams, but very inconsistent football teams.
Hmm.
Like I mean, I think maybe SMU,
That would be
which
the
is
team
kind of
I would
crazy
choose.
to
Yeah.
say, but the one thing going to that Clemson game, you go and look at the box score, and you go look at the team stats, and you kind of look at it and you go, how did they lose?
Hmm.
I mean, more first downs, better third down conversion, better fourth down conversion, more yards, 17 minutes, 15 minutes more, of time of possession. You're like, how on earth did you lose this game by,
Hmm.
at one point you were just getting absolutely dominated.
Hmm.
It's wild.
Yeah, I think that is. I didn't check and see what the numbers were, but it's red zone efficiency. If you
Mm-hmm.
have these long drives or you keep stalling them out, that's pretty tough. I mean, they even had fewer penalties. It just
Yeah.
does not make sense.
No.
Uh, so I don't know who that loss is on, but that's the second loss. And right now, it's SMU and Miami are the two teams that are set up to go
Yeah.
in the ACC championship game. If it was just right now.
Yeah.
Iowa State losing was pretty tough. K State lost again. I mean, both of
Yeah.
those were pretty bad losses. The Big 12 is just a mixed bag of everything. And at
Mm-hmm.
this point, I want to see Colorado win the Big 12. That's what I want.
I mean, it may happen.
Yeah.
They got a legitimate chance. But I mentioned this Texas Tech Iowa State game was somewhat of a trap game. I felt for
Mhm.
them, even though they don't have anyone big up next week. It was the fact that Iowa State was kind of cruising through the Big 12. Had a couple close games here and there, but
Yeah.
at the end that they would pull away, and there was just something about this. Like I said, Texas Tech. You don't know which Texas Tech team's going to show up. Either you're going to
Mhm.
get the good Texas Tech team that can score some points and play good defense, or you're going to get the
Right.
Texas Tech team that
Yeah.
can't score and can't stop anyone. And they
Yeah.
got the latter. They got the one that played solid offense and was able to slow down that offense for Iowa State.
Yeah. One random thing before they have one thought real quick for us, but one random thought is Iowa right now is 6-3 in the Big Ten. They are the Big Ten has four teams in the top 10 and nothing else. Why
Mm-hmm.
we do this every single year? Well, Iowa starts the year in the late 15 or lower. They
Mm-hmm.
drop out because they lose a couple games, and then by the end of the year they're going to be ranked 17.
Yeah, they scored 42 points this week.
It's crazy. Good for them. Let's go.
Yeah,
One of the title things I had on this episode was just a wave of disappointment and upsets. We kind of talked about the upsets real quick, but the wave of disappointment. Let me tell you some of the teams that should be absolutely just devastated with their season. And the season has maybe 3 weeks left, and there's bowl game
Mhm.
eligibility like that people are going to be scrapping for.
Yeah.
Kansas Jayhawks, Arizona Wildcats, Utah was expected to win. Obviously, Cam Rising hurt. I mean, but what did
Mhm.
you expect? Florida State is 1-8. NC State is 5-4.
Mhm.
Where was the other one? I scrolled up, not down. Shoot. Obviously, Alabama with 2 losses at 6-2. Vandy has surprised us at 6-3, which is great. Obviously, OU at 5-4 is not good.
Mhm.
But this is just an overwhelming just chaos of this is disappointment. But I say that. Is it actually just a new norm because of the transfer portal and just some of the parity that comes with college football at times?
I think that's a good point. I think a big part of it does have to do with the transfer portal, the continuity that you don't get when you bring in new players after new players, and they've learned certain bad habits at other schools, and now they bring them over here, and they're trying to take them out of those bad habits, and they're not getting coached right early on, and now you're trying to fix
Mhm.
that, and you only have like a year or maybe two, depending on how many years of eligibility they have left, and yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I think another part too may play into the fact that you get 12 teams now, and so everyone feels like, well, we have a better shot now at making the playoffs. So let's go ahead and play hard.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not out of it. 3 losses. Maybe somehow we can sneak in if we have a strong strength of schedule, and maybe it's not all doom and gloom where 4 teams, you lose 3 games, you even lose 2 games, and you're like, well, the season's done.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. So, all right, guys. Well, that is the episode. Did we miss anything, Tubby?
We did.
We did. Yes, that is right, because October is over. We're into November, and that means we are announcing our first ever W Sports podcast. Get was first ever? It feels like our
Uh,
first ever of right now of season 4.
yeah,
First ever season 4 giveaway. So, Tubby, who just won the NFL signed autograph jersey? That was redundant.
right here. The
Let's
winner
go.
is Matt Grace.
Let's go, man. I should have some like
It's,
or something like that.
I mean, just a coincidence. He ends up being a massive Patriots fan. So I think it worked out pretty great for him. And like I said, that's all you had to do is hit that subscribe button, and you got entered into a chance for that jersey.
Yeah.
And you do it now, you get entered in for November's giveaway.
That's right. November's giveaway is here. And just like you said, Tubby, couldn't have said it better myself, so I don't have to. Make sure you subscribe before you stop watching this episode, because that's the number one way too. And we're on a journey to 300 subscribers. So thank you guys to everyone who's already hit that button. Continue to show up. We'll continue to talk about sports, and make sure in the comments, or we'll make sure we do our best to return the response. All right. So till
Yep.
then, we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
See ya.